November 16th, 1989, Altamira, Brazil. A small city deep in the Amazon rainforest. 10-year-old Antonio Costa is walking home from school when a man on a bicycle approaches him. The man pulls out a cloth. Before Antonio can react, it's pressed over his face. Antonio tries to fight back, but his limbs go weak. Everything goes black. When Antonio wakes up, he's lying in the dirt. He's alone, and he's bleeding heavily between his legs. He looks down and realizes he's been castrated. A 10-year-old boy surgically castrated, left for dead in the Amazon rainforest. Over the next 4 years, 18 more boys will be attacked in Altamira. 6 will die. 13 will survive but be scarred for life. And when police finally crack the case, they will discover something that defies belief. A UFO cult led by a psychic who claimed aliens from a superior dimension commanded her to castrate children to free their souls from earthly existence. I'm Tony. This is the story of the Superior Universal Alignment, one of the most disturbing cults in modern history. A case that involves alien contact, child mutilation, religious fanatics, and the justice system that utterly failed. Oh, and there's a twist. A serial killer confessed to the same murders. So to this day, no one knows for certain who really did it. Alright, before we dive into the cult itself, we need to understand the scope of what happened in Altamira between 1989 and 1993. Altamira is a city in Pará state, deep in the Brazilian Amazon. Population around 100,000 at the time, mostly poor families, limited police presence. It's remote, the kind of place where if something bad happens, it might take a while for authorities to notice. And something very bad was happening. Between 1989 and 1993, 19 boys between the ages of 8 and 14 were attacked. The method was always the same. The boys were approached by a man, sometimes on a bicycle, sometimes on foot. He would lure them with promises. Come with me and get my kite down from a tree. I know where there are mangoes. Want to earn some extra money? The boys would follow him to an isolated area. Then, chloroform, a cloth soaked in chemicals pressed over their faces. They would pass out within seconds. When they would wake up, if they would wake up, they would have been surgically castrated. Precise cuts, medical skill. Some were also sexually abused. Some had their eyes gouged out. Some showed signs of torture, burns, and stab wounds. 6 boys died from blood loss or infections. 13 survived, but with permanent physical and psychological damage. 5 boys disappeared completely and were never found. By 1991, the police in Altamira realized they have a serious problem. Boys keep disappearing, bodies keep turning up, survivors with the same horrific injuries. The pattern is undeniable. All victims are boys aged between 8 to 14, all from poor families, all lured to isolated areas, all castrated with surgical precision. Many sexually assaulted, some tortured. The police initially think it's a lone predator. In 1990, they arrest a homeless man named Rotilio de Souza. They're convinced he's the killer. But then Rotilio dies in prison under suspicious circumstances, and the attacks continue. The police realize they arrested the wrong person. Back to square one. New theory is an organ trafficking ring. The surgical precision, the specific targeting of genitals, maybe someone is harvesting organs for the black market. Investigators start looking at doctors in the area, and they find something interesting. 2 doctors recently moved to Altamira, Dr. Inicio Ferreira de Souza and Dr. Cicio Bandeiro. Both men have medical training, both are relatively new to the area, and according to witnesses, both have been seen near some of the crime scenes. Both doctors belong to a religious group, an occult organization called the Superior Universal Lineage, and the group leader, a woman named Valentina de Andrade. In 1993, a witness comes forward with a bombshell. His name is Edmilson da Silva Frazão. He tells police that in 1991, he attended what he describes as a satanic ritual at Dr. Sosa's house, and Valentina de Andrade was there. Police raid properties connected to the cult. They find surgical equipment, blood-stained tables, UFO artwork covering the walls, and books written by Valentina herself. One of her books is titled God, the Great Farce, and inside there is a chilling passage. Be cautious of children. They are unconscious instruments of the great farce called God and his nefarious collaborators. Children born after 1981, Valentina wrote, are evil. They are tools of a false god, and the only way to save their souls is through purification. Purification meaning castration. The police realized this isn't organ trafficking. This is religious mutilation, a cult that believes cutting off boys' genitals will free their souls and prepare them for alien abduction. In 1993, 7 people are arrested. Valentina de Andrade, the cult's founder, age 62. Dr. Anicio Ferreira de Sousa, who performed the castrations. Dr. Cicio Brandero, who assisted with the procedures. Hamilton Madeira Gomez, who recruited and lured boys and was a sexual abuser. Carlos Alberto Santos Lima, ex-military police and cult enforcer, and 2 others connected to the group. But here's the big question. Who the hell is Valentina de Andrade? How does she convince people to mutilate children? And what does she believe aliens told her to do? To answer that, we need to go back. Way back. Valentina de Andrade was born around 1931 in rural Brazil. Exact details about her early life are scarce. She wasn't exactly famous before all this happened. What we know is that from a young age, Valentina claimed to have psychic abilities. She said she could hear voices, see beings of light, communicate with spirits. By her teenage years, she was working as a fortune teller, tarot cards, palm reading, the whole deal. And she was good at it. Or at least, people believed she was good at it. Then in 1960s, Valentina had what she described as her first alien contact. According to her, she was abducted by beings of superior dimension. These weren't your typical little gray aliens. These were highly evolved entities, beings of pure consciousness who existed on a higher plane of reality. And they gave her a mission. Humanity must evolve. The physical body is a prison, and Valentina was chosen to be the teacher who would guide people towards spiritual ascension. Now, here's the thing. The 1960s and 70s were a wild time for UFO culture in Brazil. There were tons of reported sightings, contactee groups popping up everywhere. People genuinely believed aliens were visiting Earth and trying to communicate. Valentina positioned herself right at the center of this movement. She started holding UFO discussion groups, psychic readings, where she would channel messages from the superior beings. And she attracted followers, a mix of poor, desperate families looking for hope and middle-class UFO enthusiasts looking for answers. Her message was simple but seductive. Aliens are coming. They're going to save humanity from its corrupt earthly existence, but only the purified will be taken. By the 1980s, Valentina's theology had fully developed. Here are the core beliefs. 1. Aliens from superior dimension exist. They are benevolent, highly evolved, and want to save humanity. 2. The physical body is a prison. Earth is corrupt, and our bodies trap our souls. 3. Children born after 1981 are evil. They are instruments of the great farce called God. 4. Genitals represent earthly attachment. Sexual organs tie us to carnal, base existence. 5. Purification through castration, removing genitals, frees the soul for ascension. Yeah, you heard that right. Castration equals spiritual freedom. And Valentina specifically targeted boys. Why? According to her theology, male energy is too earthly, too aggressive. Boys needed to be purified first before they could ascend. In 1981, Valentina officially registered her organization, the Superior Universal Lineage. She set up headquarters in Altamira and surrounding areas. At its peak, the cult had between 200 and 300 members, and that's when she recruited Dr. Inicio Ferreira de Sousa. Dr. Sousa was a former medical student. He's been expelled from medical school for malpractice, but he still has surgical training. He was also a spiritualist, someone already inclined to believe in higher powers and mystical forces. When Valentina approached him, she told him the aliens needed him. They needed someone with medical knowledge to perform the sacred purification. And he believed her. Now, here's where it gets even darker. Valentina didn't just recruit true believers. She targeted vulnerable families. Her method was calculated. First, identify targets. Poor families in the Amazon region, especially those with sick children or desperate situations. Second, build trust. Offer free psychic readings, alien messages, specifically about their child. Third, plant the seed. Your child is special. The aliens have chosen them. Fourth, show evidence. Photos of UFOs, fake or misidentified. Drawings, testimonies from other believers. Fifth, make the ask. The time has come for the purification ceremony. Some families said yes. They were fully indoctrinated. They believed their child would be saved, would ascend to a higher plane. Other families said no. So the cult started kidnapping boys off the streets. Alright, this is where the story gets really dark. If you need to skip ahead, I totally understand, but I think it's important to document exactly what happened. The first castrations began in 1989. Dr. Sousa performed the procedures at cult compounds, makeshift surgical rooms with basic equipment. The first victims came from consenting families, parents who truly believed their children would be saved. They brought their sons to Valentina willingly. Dr. Sousa would perform the castration. No anesthetic. Valentina claimed pain was part of the purification process. The first victim was 8 years old. He survived, but developed a severe infection. Any normal person would have stopped there, sought medical help, realized they had made a terrible mistake. But Valentina's response? The aliens are testing our faith. And she told Dr. Sousa to continue. In 1990, 8 boys were castrated. Word was spreading within the cult. Some families were eager to participate. 2 more boys died from blood loss and septic shock. Valentina escalated. The cult started kidnapping boys whose families refused. Method: cult members would spot boys on the streets, lure them with candy or promises. After castration, they would dump the boys near hospitals or leave them for dead. 3 more deaths. Between 1991 and 1993, 7 boys were castrated. Police were receiving reports of missing boys and mutilated children showing up at hospitals. Valentina became paranoid, moved operations between different compounds. Dr. Sousa's surgeries became increasingly sloppy, rushed, no sterile equipment. Final death toll: 6 boys dead, ages between 8 to 14. The survivors? The 13 boys who lived were left with permanent damage. Physical, scarring, hormone issues, inability to have children, chronic pain. Several survivors attempted suicide in the years following their attacks. Some succeeded. One survivor, now an adult, gave an interview years later. He said, "She stole my childhood, my future. She told me I was going to heaven. I got hell." But here's what makes this case even more infuriating. It took so long to stop. Why? 1. Remote location. Altamira is deep in the Amazon. Limited police presence. 2. Poor families. Many were afraid to report to authorities, distrusted the system. 3. Cult secrecy. Members were sworn to silence, threatened with spiritual consequences. 4. Police incompetence. Early reports were dismissed as folklore or exaggeration. 5. Wrong arrests. Remember Rotolio? Police wasted time on the wrong suspect. It was only after hospitals noticed a pattern of multiple boys showing up with identical injuries that a real investigation began. But by then, 6 children were already dead. In 1993, Valentina de Andrade and 6 others were arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder, aggravated assault, kidnapping, and child abuse. The trial dragged on for 10 years. Yes, you heard that right. 10 years. The Brazilian legal system is notoriously slow, and this case had complications. Let's talk about the evidence. The prosecution's case included survivor testimony. Antonio and Waldecile, now teenagers, finally came forward. They identified Dr. Sosa and other cult members as their attackers. Witness testimony. Agostinho Jose Costa testified that he saw Dr. Brandeo leaving a crime scene carrying a styrofoam box and a bloody machete. Edmilson da Silva Frazo's account. He claimed he attended a cult ritual at Dr. Sosa's house in 1991. Saw Valentina there too. Physical evidence. Surgical equipment found at cult compounds. Bloodstained tables. UFO artwork. Valentina's writings. Her book, God, the Great Farce, explicitly states that children are evil and need to be purified. The prosecution's argument, Valentina created this ideology. She recruited the members. She commended the castrations. Even if she didn't physically commit the crimes, she was the mastermind. But the defense had a different strategy. Valentina's lawyers argued that she was not in Altamira when the crimes occurred. They brought in alibi witnesses, including her ex-husband, Dulio Nolasco Piera. He testified that Valentina only visited Altamira once, in 1986, on a brief tour with friends. According to the defense, Valentina lived elsewhere in Brazil. She was the cult's spiritual leader, yes, but she had no direct involvement in the castrations. No physical evidence placed her at the crime scenes, no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing. And here's the kicker. The prosecution couldn't definitively prove she gave direct orders to commit the murders. Under Brazilian law, being the intellectual author of a crime, inspiring it through ideology, isn't enough for a murder conviction if you can't prove direct involvement. Valentina's defense also highlighted problems with the investigation. No autopsies on all corpses. Some bodies were never properly examined. No forensic analysis on all crime scenes. Evidence collections was sloppy. Contradictory witness testimony. Edmilson changed his story multiple times about dates. Procedural errors. Police made mistakes that compromised evidence. In 2003, after a decade-long trial, the verdicts came down. Convicted, Dr. Inicio Ferreira de Sousa, 77 years in prison. Dr. Ciccio Brandeo, approximately 35 to 57 years. Hamilton Madeira Gomez, 57 years. Acquitted, Valentina de Andrade, found not guilty, age 72 at the time. The court accepted her alibi. They concluded there wasn't enough evidence to prove she was directly involved in the murders. She walked out of that courtroom a free woman. The public was outraged. Victims' families protested outside the courthouse. How could the woman who created this death cult, who wrote books calling children evil, who inspired these atrocities, how could she just walk free. But legally, the court said they didn't have a case. And here's another gut punch. Dr. Sosa was sentenced to 77 years, but he only served about 10 years before being released. Most of the other convicted cult members were released by the 2010s after serving minimal time. So to recap, 6 children dead, 13 survivors with permanent physical and psychological damage, 5 boys never found, and almost no one spent significant time in prison. Now, if this story ended here, it will already be one of the most disturbing cult cases in modern history. A UFO cult that mutilated children, a leader who walked free, a justice system that failed. But remember, when I said there was a twist, in 2004, police in the neighboring state of Maranhão arrested a man named Francesco. Francesco was a bicycle mechanic, quiet guy, kept to himself. But when police searched his home, they found something horrifying: body parts, preserved remains of children. Under interrogation, Francesco confessed. He admitted to murdering 42 children between 1991 and 2003. And here's where it gets crazy. He claimed that 12 of those murders happened in Altamira. Same city, same time frame, same method: luring boys, castration, sexual abuse, mutilation. So wait, was it the cult? Or was it Francesco all along? Or this is the really disturbing possibility: we're both operating independently in the same small city at the same time. Let's look at the evidence. The cult crimes: 1989 to 1993, surgical precision, religious motivation, purification theology, multiple perpetrators, Dr. Sosa, Hamilton, others. Witness testimony placing cult members at scenes. Francesco's crimes: 1991 to 2003, overlapping time frame. Castration, sexual abuse, identical MO. Solo operator, confessed to 12 Altamira murders specifically. Physical evidence, body parts found at his home. Here's what makes this so complicated. Francesco confessed, then retracted, then confessed again. He was convicted in multiple trials and is currently serving 385 years in prison. But his timeline overlaps with the cult's activities. Some of the murders he confessed to match cases the cult was convicted for. So, what's the truth? Theory 1. The cult did it. Survivor testimony identified cult members. Cult ideology matches the crimes. Multiple witnesses placed them at scenes. Francesco's confession was false, coerced, or simply seeking attention. Theory 2. Francesco did it. He had physical evidence at his home. Confessed in detail to Altamira murders. Cult was wrongly convicted. MO matches his other confirmed crimes. Theory 3. Both were active. Francesco committed some murders. Cult committed others. Pure coincidence, they operated in the same city, same time, same MO. Some crimes may have been misattributed. To this date, no one knows for certain. Legal experts, investigators, even the victim families are divided. Some believe the cult was responsible. Some think Francesco was the real killer and the cult was scapegoated. The truth may never be known. So, what happened to everyone involved? The cult members. Dr. Anicio Ferreira de Sousa served about 10 years of his 77-year sentence before being released. His current whereabouts are unknown. The other convicted members were released throughout the 2010s after serving fractions of their sentences. Valentina de Andrade. Valentina was acquitted in 2003. She was 72 years old. She never spent a day in prison. Francesco is in prison, serving 385 years for multiple child murders across different states. He's confessed to 42 murders in total, though the exact number is unclear. He continues to maintain that he committed the Altamira murders, not the cult. The survivors Antonio, Wadatsile, and the other survivors are now in their 40s. Antonio underwent 14 surgeries for genital reconstruction. In testimony during the trial, he described the ongoing trauma. Every surgery, I relived the day I was castrated because of the numbness from the waist down caused by anesthesia. The psychological damage is even worse. PTSD, depression, anxiety disorders, trust issues. Several survivors reportedly died by suicide in the years following their attacks. Alright, let's step back and look at the bigger picture. This case raises some really disturbing questions about human nature, religious belief, and justice. Question 1. How does this happen? How does a psychic convince people, educated people, doctors, parents, to mutilate children? The answer is uncomfortable. Charismatic leaders, isolation, gradual indoctrination, and targeting vulnerable populations. Valentina didn't start with, "Let's castrate children." She started with, "I can help you," free psychic readings, messages from aliens, promises of salvation, and then slowly, she escalated. By the time family realized what they had agreed to, they were already in too deep. Question 2. Was Valentina insane or evil? Here's my take. Probably both. She likely genuinely believed in her alien contact. She exhibited signs of delusional disorder, hearing voices, inability to recognize the harm she caused. But she also exploited those delusions for control and money. The cult collected donations from families. Valentina owned property, vehicles, had financial resources. So, was she delusional prophet or a manipulative predator? Question 3. Did the right people go to prison? We don't know. If Francesco de Chengas really committed the Altamira murders, then the cult members were wrongly convicted. If the cult did it, then Francesco falsely confessed. Or both were active, and some crimes were misattributed. The truth is buried somewhere in Amazon, along with the 5 boys who were never found. Question 4. Could this happen again? Yes. Absolutely yes. Cult exists all over the world. Many involve charismatic leaders claiming divine or alien authority. Many target vulnerable populations, the poor, the desperate, the lonely. And history shows that when you combine religious craze, isolation, and unchecked authority, horrific things can happen. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, please like and subscribe. And if you know someone who might be involved with a dangerous group, don't wait, get help.